first thing I tell anyone about Wedi, if some of you are not familiar, is that we're not a new company. We've actually been specializing in modular extruded polystyrene foam shower systems for the last 35 years, starting in 1983 in Germany. We recently just built a plant in the United States right outside of Chicago, so we're all real excited to actually start manufacturing the building material here in the US. So today we will be installing a curbless shower. It's one of our most popular systems. It's the Ligno system. But before we get into that, just gonna go over the basics of the Wedi system. The foam, that's what's waterproof. It's an extruded polystyrene foam. It's a closed cell matrix type foam, similar to a honeycomb structure. And what that does, it allows this material to be waterproof throughout the entire core of it. So if I poke a hole in this, I'm still 100% waterproof until I come out the other side of it. The cementitious coating on there, that's just trying to give you a great bond cement to cement, because you're gonna be adhering tile with it with thin set mortar. The fiberglass mesh embedded inside of our building panels, that's actually there to give it strength. All of our building panels, from our 1/8 of an inch building panel all the way up to our 2-inch building panel, are all rated for a heavy commercial underlayment. You can literally tile it and drive a forklift over the top of it. So to get going on the installation, we just want to do a little bit of substrate prep before we get Alex going here. And I would say there's 3 things you definitely want to look out for in a curbless shower. The first thing is 2 flush transitions. I can make any type of shower curbless by building up my subfloor to meet that edge, right? But now I'm gonna have a transition at the doorway because I got carpet in the hallway. So what good is a curbless shower if I got a curbed bathroom? Second thing is you wanna maintain the proper substrate for tile. You don't wanna have a reinforced structural plastic, something like that that's not approved by Tile Council of North America. And the third thing is you don't wanna change the structural integrity of it. Unless you're a structural engineer and you're gonna completely revamp this and make sure it's all good to go, we want to maintain structural integrity and not modify that whatsoever. So we came out with a system that allows you to maintain all 3 of those very important points. So when it comes to the substrate prep, all of Wedi's substrate requirements, other than this little bit of modifying we'll be doing here, is just that of tile. We want to make sure the floor meets L over 360, L being the length in between your joist, your stud cavity, divided by 360. That's a lot of deflection for ceramic tile. Obviously L over 720 for natural stone. But for this system here, what we're gonna wanna actually do, is that gonna come out? We wanna cut out our 3/4 inch subfloor, add cleats to the side of the joist here, 3/4 of the way down on the side of your joist, and you're gonna drop your subfloor right in between it. So we still have 3/4 inch on at least 16 on center. We never modified our joist. What we did is, our shower floor is now 3/4 of an inch lower than the rest of the bathroom. The Ligno pan that we will be installing today has an outside perimeter of 3/4 of an inch. It's gonna be one of the thinnest shower pans you can possibly find. On top of a slab, it's the lowest you'll have to build up to. We do also have a 3/4 inch thick building panel that you can use as an underlayment and create a perfect seamless wet room with only building up 3/4 of an inch. So the few things that you're gonna wanna note is, this is gonna be perfectly flush to the subfloor. Whatever you're gonna wanna use as an underlayment outside the shower, you can put right underneath the pan to build that up. If you have to stay extremely low, which what we'll be doing today, you can actually use our subliner dry sheet membrane as a low profile underlayment replacement. Now I'm only building up my subfloor 23 mils plus the thin set mortar underneath it to adhere this down. So now even in a carpet transition, I'm still maintaining 2 flush transitions, getting a curbless shower, maintaining the proper substrate for tile, and then obviously not having any type of lippage anywhere. So we're gonna get Alex going on the installation here. First thing he's gonna do before he puts this in is he's gonna install our drain. At Wedi, we use compression fit drains, very similar to what you'd be using with a sink base, an onyx base, anything like that. Our products do not get saturated, so we do not need a 3-piece drain where it's gonna get saturated, hit your rubber liner, go down. Nothing's getting saturated, so we use a standard compression fit drain. 2 nice bonuses to that. 1, anyone can install it by code because it's using a rubber gasket. So tile setters out there, you can install that without having to get a plumber on site. Second reason, you always have access to that drain. By a raise of hand, who here has ever repaired a glue-in drain? How'd you guys do it? Did you replace the glue and drain? Exactly, you can't. You have to replace the glue and drain. So with this, I always have access to my drain connection without touching any tile thin set or grout and not cutting a hole in my kitchen ceiling. So we put the rubber gasket, the plastic gasket, to allow them to tighten that nut on the back, and we use joint sealant in there to seal that to the pan. Our joint seal is a modified silane polymer. It's like a silicone urethane hybrid. It's a military grade sealant as well as an adhesive. We're going to use this on all of our seams to waterproof everything. So on the actual job site, the pan's waterproof, the walls are waterproof. The only thing that's not are the seams. So anytime Wedi comes together, we're going to do a bead in between, then we're going to do an additional bead on top. This is going to make this a nice watertight application and avoid the use of mortar in any of our connections. What I like about this as well is that it's going to give you nice square corners, nice flush transitions to tile over the top of. The full Wedi system takes about 2.5 hours to install. This stuff's going to skin over in about 30 minutes. So you're tiling directly on top of that. From the beginning of your job, looking like bare subfloor, open studs, you're tiling in 3.5 hours. If you need to do a flood test, 2 hours after installation. So when my job site looks like a bare subfloor and open studs, right after I eat lunch that morning, I'm going to fill that up with water, make sure it's watertight, and then tile on top of it. So Alex is going to mortar this down. He's going to use a 1/4x1/4 notch trowel. He's going to burn it in with the flat side of the trowel first. That's going to get that mechanical bond to that substrate. Just like coverage on the back of your tile is important, coverage on your subfloor is important. Because if he's going to properly thin set that pan's never touching that subfloor. That pan is bonded to that thin set's bonded to that subfloor. So definitely want to run all your trowel lines the same direction after keying it in with the flat side of the trowel. We're also going to take that same mortar and we're going to put it on the back of the pan to ensure proper coverage. This is a wet area and we want you to treat that pan like a large format tile. So we're looking for 95% coverage minimum. Always going to shoot for 100, but 95% is pretty good as well. So we're going to run the same trowel lines on the back of that pan. As you're skimming that down, we do have a few requirements. So for this, you'll notice on the back of this pan over here, it has a big reinforced steel collar. All of our pans have a minimum 1/4 inch per foot slope to it, even this thin pan here. What ends up happening, because of how thin this is, it gets pretty thin around the drain. So we have a reinforced steel collar here. We need a 6.5 inch hole in order to properly seat this. And your pipe needs to be 5/8 of an inch below the top of your subfloor. That way that properly connects. All you do, if you're not doing the plumbing, have the plumber give you a 6-inch stub so that way you can cut it down any which way you need. While Alex is getting this ready, I'm going to go over a few of our other systems that we won't be installing today. We do have linear drains, which I think it's important to know with linear drains are an aesthetic upgrade. They're an upgrade because they look cool. If you got a bunch of body sprays coming in, 2 shower heads, a handheld, a rain shower, a car wash type shower, this still goes down to a 2-inch pipe. So, you want to have multiple drains or, a wider setup there. But this is an awesome aesthetic upgrade. We have our modular system here. And you'll notice with our drains, it's a nice solid, more of a modern look. It's not graded. You don't have all the holes there. So it's a nice, sleek look. The water actually drains around the perimeter. We include spacers that you'd put in there and tile directly up to that. So that way it leaves you that nice perimeter there. And this is our modular version. This can be used as with a mud bed, but you would have to topically waterproof it because there's no weep holes here. But we also have our full system where it has an actual single slope ramp. So I would just mortar these down, joint sealing in between, joint sealing on top. 30 minutes later, I'm tiling this with a nice large format tile, plank tile, no relief cuts, anything like that, all the way to the drain. Important thing to know about single slope pans, you will have to put a ledger strip up and cut in that first row of tile. So we do have both options. We have the single slope, but we also have the 4-way slope linear drains as well, which all of our pans can be used with large format tile, but with pans like the Ligno, you will have to have the relief cuts. But with the Ligno, there's not there's not too many ways in the industry to do a complete curbless shower, maintain industry standards, large format tile on the floor, large format tile on the pan, no transition there. It's a real nice look, and this is an aesthetic and functionality upgrade. This is one step towards ADA compliancy. Obviously, there's a lot of other requirements, width of door, turnaround area, but when it comes to the 0 threshold, that pan can do it also with large format. As you can see now, Alex is running his trowel lines the same direction as the pan. keeping it all one direction. When you go, I know the swirls are fun to do and everything, but you're creating air pockets and you can't maintain a 45-degree angle when you're doing this. You got different amounts of mortar everywhere. So just like a large format tile, we're gonna treat that pan the same way. Mortar all one direction, all the other way. And we're always gonna recommend a latex modified mortar. It's a cement coating, so any type of cement to cement bond will work, but we just want you to be able to have one type of mortar on the job. So whatever you need for that tile, you can use that with our system. Obviously no mastic in a wet area. It is made from a plant, so we do not want that with our product in a wet area. Alex is gonna walk on it, make sure he's gonna compress that. He wants to get that coverage, so he's gonna work that all down. With these bigger pans, you can't really push them too much, so we are gonna have, if we're not gonna be working on it right away or it's larger, we're gonna put some tile boxes on there or thin set something to really hold that down. You'll notice we have blocking around the perimeter of our shower pan. It's not required, but that's a great cheap insurance. I always recommend it. If you've done a Portland sand mixer type installation before, you might have done that already for your liner. But what we like it for is we're creating a modular connection there. You'll notice that rabbit channel that we had around the perimeter of the pan. We're creating a modular connection so everything's can interlock together to make sure it's completely waterproof. And what that blocking does, it holds all that joint sealant and pushes it onto the pan. If it goes into the wall cavity, that's fine. We got compression. You just can't see it. So that blocking just gives you that visual cue that, hey, yeah, I got compression. That joint sealant, you can literally bond stainless steel to porcelain tile with that, but it needs that compression to do so. So that rabbit channel is very important to get that modular connection. Alex is filling that channel with our joint sealant. We're gonna fill that up all the way. He's using our 20-ounce sausage gun. If you plan on using Wedi more than once, that's a definitely must-have. He dry fit the board beforehand. You can literally put this all together dry, take it apart, install it, and you're still looking at like a 3-hour installation time. Obviously with the Ligno, that's substrate prep. That'll kick in another hour, so you're banging out a curbless shower in about 4.5 hours, while, like I said before, maintaining structural integrity, maintaining industry standards as well. He's gonna push that all the way down, make sure he gets that compression. You'll notice we got that joint sealant squeezing out. That's what we love to see. We wanna see that stuff squeeze out. Like I said before, if it goes into the wall cavity, not a big deal. You got compression, but you just can't see inside your wall cavity. So that little bit of blocking allows you to do that. I'll put anything there. If I don't have 2x4s, I'll use cutoffs of my pan. I'll do some scrap Wedi there just to make sure that I got that back in there. So he's gonna push that down. Again, not required, just a nice cheap insurance. He's gonna put that down. He's starting a foot above the pan with his washers. That's important because, the world's not perfect. Sometimes you got your stud backed off your base plate a little bit. When you screw that board in, you don't wanna pull that board away from that pan. That joint sealant's plenty strong to hold it down there, so we're just gonna start a foot above the pan. Those washers are gonna countersink. Obviously, like I said, that building panel is waterproof throughout because of that extruded foam core. But that screw is going all the way through there, so we're gonna cover that with that joint sealant. It's gonna be a nice flush transition. Then obviously we're waterproofing the penetration. Obviously this is a mock-up, so we're only going 18 inches high, but in a real application, the next panel you'd put joint sealant. Again, it's a modular connection down to the base, very important, but up here, once we get away from where all the water's going, we can do a butt joint. So we're gonna cover this blue edge with that joint sealant, put it down, and we're gonna put a washer and a screw directly in the middle. That's gonna pull them together and give you a nice, even transition from board to board. So when you're tiling over it, it's gonna be a lot easier. So he's got one building panel installed. So now with that second one, now that we already have a wall installed, we need that joint sealant anytime Wedi touches Wedi. So that first one, we're touching that board to that pan. The second panel, we're touching that pan and that board. So we're gonna put a bead of joint sealant in that channel just like we did before. And then we're gonna run one up that edge of that back wall. So that way when I come in with that side building panel, I'm gonna get that nice compression that we're looking for on that joint sealant. The first screw that Alex is gonna put in is gonna be right there in that corner. He's gonna put it on a slight angle. He's gonna screw that in there and it's gonna pull those boards even closer together. So as easy as the installation is, this is actually just helping you out for later because now it's gonna be even easier to tile on top of because I have nice square corners. I have nice flush transitions because I don't have a lot of buildup. I'm just using that joint sealant. While he's getting that building panel ready, we're gonna talk about a few other things. The important thing to know about Wedi is that We're a focused company. We stick to what we're good at. We do waterproofing for showers and wet areas. We have all the different accessories to go with it, whether it be suspended rectangular benches like the Santa Wasa 4 right here. That's actually rated for 550 pounds directly on top of it, completely suspended rectangular bench. We have our other Santa Wasa lines. This is more of like the design, more of the aesthetic appeal. We have curved top ones, which obviously you'd have to use with a mosaic tile. Because of that curve right here, you can actually have this nice and flush with the toe kick going back. You can overhang this, so that way they get a little bit more room for their legs behind it. This one bench, you can put this together 4 or 5 different ways just by flipping around the toe kick, offsetting this, and overhanging it. So a lot of cool options you can do there. Again, all that same foam, so all these building products are completely waterproof. Our 2-inch building panel, which you'll see is prefab for a lot of these benches. Another awesome application for that is I can actually build a freestanding wall. If you want to take after the presentation, we actually have a few dry fitted together over there at our booth. So instead of having a 2x4 wall, 3.5 inches, 1/2 inch of backer board on either side, 3/8 of an inch of tile and your mortar, so around 1/2 inch too, you're talking about, that's 3.5, 4.5, you're talking about a 5.5 inch wall. So let's say my shower's right here, I have a partition wall right here, and I have my toilet over here. All right, well, I want a little bit more room over there. I can actually take off that, not even worry about making the studs for that wall. I can use this as a completely freestanding wall. With 2 points of contact, the floor and the back wall, I can come out 4 feet. So now instead of a 5.5 inch thick wall, I got 2 inches and I tile directly on either side. You save a lot of room. Might not seem like a lot of room, but when you're sitting on that toilet and you want that little bit of elbow room, it's nice. So you can actually use this for freestanding walls. If you with 3 points of contact, the floor, the back wall, and the ceiling, you can go as far as you want. You can actually build a whole, bathroom, wet room with this material. Great for vanities, anywhere that's going to be seeing water. So after that second building panel is installed, we're going to go back with that second bead of joint sealant. We had great squeeze out of that joint because we got good compression, but no matter how much comes out, we're always going to go back and do another bead on top of it. So we're going to go back with our nice corner putty knife. You'll see our square corners there. Like I said, that joint sealant is going to skin over in 30 minutes, which allows you to tile. He's covering the washers. What we want to see when you're all done is about 3/4 of an inch to an inch on either side of that seam, at about 1/16 of an inch thickness. So you don't want to scrape that off, you really just want to flatten that down. So after he does that, we're now going to waterproof outside the shower. Anytime you're doing a curbless shower, we always want to see waterproofing a minimum of 3 feet outside the shower. Depending on your buildup, I get asked a lot, well, what should I use outside of there? Well, what's really going to dictate what you use as your primary waterproofing outside the shower, because of that 0 threshold, is what your finished material is outside the bathroom. If I have hardwood flooring, I might have a 1/2 inch plus my tile to build up. If I have carpet, I don't have that much room. So like I said before, you can use any of our building panels. They're all rated for heavy commercial underlayment, or our sheet membrane, our subliner dry, which again, you would adhere this down with the same modified thin set that you put that pan down with. And now I only built up my floor 23 mils plus my mortar. So we're going to use that. What's very important with curbless showers is not only waterproofing the exterior floor, but what's coming up to my shower right here on the wall. It's drywall, right? And that's that close to that wet area. We want to make sure we flash that up the walls as well. So 2 inches up that wall just to protect that. If you're using this for ADA compliance reasons, you might be bringing a chair in and out. You get a lot of water. You're opening your glass. Your water's coming down. We want to make sure that water's not going to go anywhere, even up that wall, because you have gypsum there. If maybe they did a gypsum self-leveling material out there, you don't want to get that saturated or any kind of moisture there. So we're going to make sure that's completely protected. And even with our sheet membrane, you'll notice Alex is putting it down with the same notch trowel there, but he's going to also seal off that seam with our joint sealant. We don't want to rely on just that mortar and that membrane. We want to make sure that's a complete sealed area. So we're going to run a bead of that same joint sealant over that, because we don't want any water migrating in between the membrane through there, because there's a big chunk of mortar or something, or the trowel lines weren't all the way collapsed. So very important, seal that off. And he's also going to flash it up the walls 2 inches. With our sheet membrane, you want to use a 1/4 by 1/4 notch trowel or a 3/16 by 3/16 notch trowel, and then use like a wood float to flatten that down. So what Alex did with that membrane, he kept his mortar back just a little bit from the edge of that membrane because he's going to finish off that strip with joint sealant. So he doesn't want to mix all that up because we're using the joint sealant to seal it off, and thin set's not waterproof, so we don't want to mix that thin set with that joint sealant. So keep that thin set back a little bit and finish that, that edge with joint sealant. You'll notice, like I said before, we do have that rabbit channel around the perimeter. This pan does come with little strips. Obviously, that rabbit channel is very important for the wall connection because, again, we're making a modular connection. We're creating a waterproof system. But with when you're transitioning the floor, you obviously don't need it. One of Wedi's best added values to not only the installer but also the end user is the warranty. You know, and I encourage you to any products you use, read the warranty. You'll be surprised what a lot of companies might not cover or who they might not cover. When it comes to Wedi, everyone's covered, and we also cover all consequential damage. So if this pan failed for some reason, and this pan went right through it, fell on top of an Audi RS5 in the garage, we're paying for that Audi. We're paying for that garage. We're paying for that tile thin set grout. We're paying for labor. We literally cover any type of consequential damage when it comes to an actual product defect. So it's great added value not only for you, but even if you've never had an issue before, it's great added value for that end user as well. You know, if you're doing a Portland sand application and you're not doing any topical waterproofing, by law, whoever installs that, you're looking at a craftsmanship warranty for 1 year. With this, you're able to pass it on along. We have a 10, 15, and 20-year options for all of our warranties, and everything's covered. It's great to pass along. And like I said, not only is the affected area, the finished material, but also consequential damage. And that's what the end user is really worried about. How many times have someone said to you, like, hey, this isn't gonna leak, right? My kitchen's right below it. No, absolutely not. And if anything did happen, we have you covered. Definitely check it out. Look into the warranties that you with the products you use already. They're all available online, as is Wedi's. And we also offer additional training. Like I said, we just built an awesome factory right outside Chicago, building this stuff here, but we also host our pro certifications there, which increase the warranty to 15 and 20-year options, which still also include consequential damage. So check it out, look into warranties, look into our warranties, compare, see what might be best for that end user for what you do professionally. We're right over there at the Wedi booth. Come by, talk to one of your reps, find your local rep, get our cards, and we'll be more than happy to actually come out on site and install it with you for your first time. So if you're, it is we don't offer that because it's crazy complicated. We just built a curbless shower in 30 minutes that you're able to use large format tile on top of, and only building up 23 mils. But we do it because this product is, we know it's different. There's not many other products out there like it with that full system approach, one method, joint sealant, extruded polystyrene foam. So definitely check it out. Contact your local rep after the presentation. Come over to our booth and talk to us. And if anyone has any questions, we'd feel free to take the last couple minutes here to answer any of your questions. Anyone have any questions on curbless showers or Wedi in general? Gentlemen, you guys are all looking that way now? Come on, what you got? Yeah. Yeah. So with all of our other pans, you can go smaller than a 2x2, but under a 2x2, we do want epoxy grout. Smaller than a 1x1, we want epoxy grout and setting materials. With the Ligno specifically, because this is designed for maybe wheelchair traffic possibly, where you might have extreme point load on one area, we don't want smaller than a 2x2 on the Ligno. 2x2 and up, anything is good to go there. That was a great question. Anyone else? Yes, sir. What was that? Yeah, 8x8, well, mathematically, 1/4 inch per foot, you can go 2.5 feet away from the drain in either direction. What works out really nice is you can actually use two of these pans side by side. You do have to plumb in another drain, but now you have an 8-foot area sloped 1/4 inch per foot, and you still have a 3/4 inch perimeter. We do have extension panels for this, which you can build off slightly, but once you get past that 7, 8 foot, 9 foot mark, really mathematically, no matter what you're using, that's going to be difficult. So your best bet to maintain nice transitions is side-by-side pans. It works out really well. So the last thing, real quick before we finish up, the drain cover, tile thin sand and grout, not waterproof. So you'll notice our drain cover, it's a square circle hole. The area that goes past it, that's where all the water is going to go through your tile thin sand and grout, hit the pan and drain around here. So no matter what's going to happen, the pan doesn't stay saturated, your tile doesn't stay saturated, everything's dry, and you're not relying on saturation to deal with water. But thank you very much. We'll be right over there if you guys need anything, and feel free to come by.